I spent a lot of time on preparing my data before importing them into Nvivo, and you will see why and what sort of things I did. And I suppose it's a bit like house decorating, that if you want to do coding well, then you need to do the preparation stage thoroughly so that it makes it easier for you later. I had lots of different kinds of data, and the thing is, the reason why I wanted to prepare them properly, that you can change anything after in Nvivo, but and it's perfectly possible, but I found that I still like to work with my transcripts and data outside Nvivo at times, and so it was good for both sets to be the same. So let me show you what I'm going to talk about here. First of all, I got this tip about having an Nvivo ready transcript template. Then I will cover a little bit anonymizing and how I numbered my data, and a little bit about color coding, and then the importing, which is kind of the easy bit. So let me talk to you about this Nvivo ready transcript template. So this is a tip I wanted to share with you, and which I wish I had known earlier in my data collection. And this basically means when you start transcribing, or if someone else does the transcribing for you, then the way you can set up this transcription file is you set up the speakers in particular style setting, and here you can see that it's set up like that. So every time your interviewee speaks, it's a different heading, and every time you or the interviewer speaks. And I also found it useful to indicate my questions on the interviewer questions in different color, because it then makes it easier in Nvivo to see that. And why is it good? Because when you import it into Nvivo, what it can do for you based on these style settings, it can then auto-code each transcript to say that this is what Thomas says, this is what the interviewer says, and so on. So you don't need to uniquely highlight each paragraph and then code it on Thomas. Because if you then, let's say, highlighted the whole transcript and coded it as Thomas as a case, then you will also code whatever you say as the interviewer. So then it can get modeled up a little bit. And I can either share this transcript template, or you can also look at YouTube tutorials on how to do this and how you can do the automatic coding of this in Nvivo. The other tip I wanted to give you is about anonymizing your data before you import it into Nvivo. And this is my file structure of my transcript outside Nvivo on my computer. And this might not seem natural at the time, because you might have not have sorted your pseudonyms, but it saved me later when I was writing up, because I didn't then need to worry about taking screenshots of Nvivo for my thesis. And also, if you then at any point want to discuss any of your data with Nvivo open, then you don't need to worry about sharing any confidential data. And so what I did was to have an index file of all the original names and the pseudonyms, and I also had a little sticky note above my desk with this index, so that at least while I was writing it I could remember. But it was funny, because when I bumped into one of my interviewees in a cafe, I couldn't remember his real name, just his pseudonym, so which was quite funny. But the other good suggestion I would make, that when you prepare this index file, then put the interviewee's emails as well, because then when you end up writing up your thesis and you want to send the transcript for checking, or your thesis and your acknowledgements, then it is easier that all the emails are in one place. So just to show you how I organized my data folder, I had, this is my data folder. I had all my documentary resources in this folder, and my transcripts in another. So for instance, just to show you again, and the other thing was very important to work out is what unique identifiers and how I would identify the files and the participants. And this was really tricky decision to make, because I couldn't use a straight numbering system, because I had either transcripts, and then I had, if you look at this, I had data, various other documents associated with each of my unit of analysis. For instance, I had subject benchmark document. So at any point I wanted to know if a participant was from engineering or management. So that's why I used the eng and the management, and then the numbering for that lecturer. So here you've got Thomas, Mike. And then when I interviewed employers or professional engineers, then I put EMP. So from this alphanumeric code, I knew that George was an engineer who was working as an engineer, whereas Dylan was a lecturer, and he was the module leader for my 4th unit of analysis. And the same way I did that for management. And then I also identified students. So I knew that this was the 5th focus group in engineering and so on. And then any document was then also identified according to my units of analysis. So here you've got eng1 and all the documents belonging to that. I'm not going to show that because it's not anonymized. And so this identification system also reflected the logic of my case study methodology. So if you look at this slide, my 4 interviews and the numbering reflected the module. So my unit of analysis was the engineering module 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then my case became eng. The engineering was case 1 and management was case 2. So as you saw earlier in my folder, every document was then associated so that I knew that if eng4 if any document was identified with eng4, that this belonged to this unit of analysis. And this numbering system was important to get sorted before importing the document into Nvivo, so that I could return to the original files at any point if needed outside Nvivo. So as you see, I had my documents, my interview transcripts, and another thing I did, and again, you might not need to do that, but after reading each transcript, I made a summary and summarizing the main points in order to start making sense of my conceptual framework. And then I send the transcript and the summary for my interviewees for their checking. And then I also had other useful folders like my memos, any photos that I collected or taken in relation to my study, the poems that I have created, and then the framework analysis. So finally, some tips. You saw how I organize my data, and again, it will be up to your research and your research design how it will work for you. The other thing I haven't shown you, and in my peer study, a lot of them used audio or video materials, and that's perfectly okay and doable to do in the software packages. And also just to say that some things you will get right, some not, and just be ready to adopt and change and keep continuously reflecting, well, will it work for my study? What is my research question? Could I do it in a different way to make that better? The other thing is keep backing up your Nvivo project file, make copies and backup copies, especially before big changes. So let's say if you decide to merge 2 node trees or any other changes, then save a copy in case you can't reverse the change, and it will be also easier to go back. The other thing I used is the memo option for coding decisions or any new insights that I started to get, and this way you're making it much easier for yourself when you come to write up the methodology. And finally, a good tip that I got from at least 2 other people, and I love this and I use it in all my research, is use a node called good quotes, which are quotes that you really resonate with you or resonate with your research question and finding, and you will, it will be easy to go back to it and find these. And also I found that I tended to get these right for when it came to writing up. They were really good to be able to go back to. So finally, how do you get your files into Nvivo? And this is actually the easy bit. It doesn't take long once you've sorted out your data. And it might be that you don't get to sort out all of your data. You might do it in a step-by-step basis as your data is coming in. So again, that's completely up to you. In the data folder here, you can have files, and I set up folders to mirror how I have got it. You have, as with any software, various ways of doing it. You can right click here and import items, import from different software. If you, for instance, use Evernote, you can create new files, but I think I just used it here, import files, and then you would go to the bit and the files, and you can import more than one file at the same time and then import it there. In this case, it will just place it at the top in the files bit, but at any point you can reorganize and drag things into place. So for instance, I wanted to move that into the test folder, and that's now worked like that. So that's really one. And then to open and work from it, you just click and it will open, and then you can start working in it when you click edit, and you can start coding basically. The other thing is that, again, you can explore different, once you've imported everything, you can just flick between them and you can open things at the same time. So I can open a different transcript and then flick between here. That's it.